Forget what you learned in school. This is history's unhinged side. Welcome to Lifespan, the weekly podcast digging up the dirt on the most, well, outrageous, chaotic, and downright WTF lives ever lived.
And we promise, it's always fascinating.
Definitely. And today, folks, you are joining us for a truly bizarre journey. You told us you were fascinated by figures who didn't just play the game, they, rewrote the rule book.
Often in some pretty unexpected ways.
Unexpected and, let's be honest, sometimes slightly terrifying ways. Well, buckle up, because today we are talking about riding elephants over the damn Alps into one of the most outrageously metal lives in ancient history, Hannibal Barca.
Hannibal Barca. Just the name conjures up images, doesn't it?
It really does. So our mission today, we're going to delve into the testimonies surrounding this Carthaginian commander, this guy's existence. It reads like, I don't know, ancient epic poetry mixed with a really intense strategy game.
Yeah, it's got that blend. We'll see how his lifelong obsession with Rome didn't just shape his own destiny, but sent these huge shockwaves through the ancient world.
Exactly. And we'll be looking at the historical accounts, the ones that painted him as this almost mythical figure of military might and the sheer dread he inspired.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how potent that historical narrative around Hannibal still is, even now. It really speaks to our, human fascination with ambition, with rivalry.
Right. And those moments where the impossible suddenly seems, well, maybe not possible, but someone gives it an incredibly audacious shot.
Exactly. What drove a man to even think of something like crossing the Alps with an army?
That's the question. So who was this guy? The one who looks at the massive frozen Alps and thinks, yeah, army time. Oh, and bring the elephants.
Right.
Hannibal was born around 247 BC in Carthage. That's modern-day Tunisia. And from the very start, his life was just steeped in this potent anti-Roman feeling.
Yeah, his father, Hamilcar Barca, he was a major general in the First Punic War.
A war that Carthage lost pretty significantly.
And that loss wasn't just territory. It was a huge blow to their pride, their power. They lost Sicily, which was vital. It definitely bred resentment, especially in families like the Barcas.
And Hamilcar, it seems, he really channeled that resentment. According to the historian Polybius, and, Polybius liked a bit of drama.
It did tend to embellish, yeah.
But he tells this story where Hamilcar makes his 9-year-old son, little Hannibal, swear this blood oath, an oath to never stop fighting Rome.
Imagine that, 9 years old. Whether it was literal or symbolic, it absolutely shaped Hannibal's entire worldview from childhood. Rome was the enemy. Full stop.
It totally frames his life. The Barcas were like a huge deal in Carthage. Think Kennedy's. But instead of politics, it's military genius and this burning desire for revenge against Rome.
So you have this powerful family nursing this massive grudge
against an equally powerful and really expansionist Rome. So let's zoom out a bit. Talk about the bigger conflict, this ancient beef between the two powers.
Well, the Punic Wars, there were 3 in total, were fundamentally about control. Carthage was this established sea power, controlling trade, super wealthy.
Masters of the Mediterranean trade routes.
Exactly. Rome, meanwhile, was this rising land power, huge army, constantly expanding. Their ambitions were bound to clash, especially over places like Sicily. It was a fight for dominance in the Western Med.
Right. Seafaring Carthage versus land-hungry Rome. The First Punic War kicks off. Rome wins, but it doesn't really solve anything.
No, the tensions were still there. Hamilcar never let go of that hatred.
And he definitely passed it down to Hannibal.
Yeah.
So when Hannibal eventually takes command, he's not just continuing the fight, he's escalating it massively.
And that's where we see why this all matters then and now. That phrase, Hannibal at the gates.
Goosebumps, even thinking about it.
It wasn't just a saying. It was a real terrifying possibility for Rome. It became shorthand for, an existential crisis. His campaigns shook the Republic to its core.
Hannibal at the gates. Yeah, total panic. The idea Rome could actually fall. And it's not just ancient trivia, is it? His tactics, especially Cannae.
Oh, Cannae. Still studied. Military academies worldwide still look at what he did there.
Over 2,000 years later. Why do you think those tactics have held up so well?
I think it's the timeless principles, Deception, maneuver, hitting the enemy where they're weak, using positioning. Cannae is just a masterclass. His understanding of psychology on the battlefield, too, that's key.
And it's not just textbooks. You still hear military folks referencing him today, right?
Yeah.
Not like, let's do what Hannibal did, but...
More like the ultimate cautionary tale. We do not want a Hannibal situation. Meaning we don't want some brilliant, relentless enemy running rings around us deep in our own territory for a decade.
Because, when Hannibal showed up, Things got, as one source put it, biblically messy.
Huh. That captures it pretty well. It wasn't just battles. It was this long, grinding disruption of Roman life, their economy, everything. Shows his determination.
Okay, stage set. Background covered. Now let's get to the really, truly mind-blowing bit. The WTF Chronicles, as our source calls it.
The Alps.
The Alps. Marching an army, a huge army, with war elephants, over the Alps. In 218 BC, Hannibal basically goes, sea route. Nah, let's take the mountain pass.
A scenic route.
The ridiculously dangerous, considered impassable scenic route. The Alps were seen as this natural barrier. No one expected a major army to come that way.
Which was exactly the point. It was pure strategic audacity, complete surprise. Rome was looking south, expecting ships. This northern invasion, It was a massive gamble for a huge advantage.
Unexpected doesn't even cover it. It was like driving tanks through the Grand Canyon almost. He gathers, 50,000 infantry?
Around that, yeah. Plus 9,000 cavalry.
Gamble. 37 war elephants. 37? Can you imagine the logistics?
Yeah.
Feeding them? Getting them over icy cliffs?
It's staggering. It wasn't just a military move. It was part flex, part fever dream, maybe?
Totally. A death march over cliffs, fighting off mountain tribes, dealing with avalanches, blizzards, with elephants. Sounds like fantasy, not history.
The challenges are almost unimaginable. Supply lines, weather, terrain, hostile locals. It speaks volumes about his leadership and the army's resilience, frankly.
And the cost was immense. By the time they stumbled down into Italy, his army was massively reduced. Our source says half dead.
Grim.
But even then, they were terrifying to Rome because nobody saw it coming from the north. The psychological shock must have been huge.
Oh, absolutely. It shattered Roman assumptions about security. That fear lingered for years.
And with a story this wild, you get myths and theories, right? Like the elephants. Did all 37 make it?
Probably not. The legend says only one survived the whole trek, Surus.
Surus. Supposedly Hannibal's personal battle elephant. Tales say he had one tusk, maybe even a little war tower on his back.
A powerful symbol, if true. This lone, exotic survivor representing Hannibal's crazy will.
Then there's the poisonous springs idea. Some archaeology hints at toxic minerals in the Alps. Could that explain some losses for men and elephants?
It's possible. It highlights how environmental factors, stuff you can't predict, can just wreck a campaign. Contaminated water, devastating.
And the mystery of his actual route. Which pass did he take? Historians still argue some think Hannibal deliberately spread confusing info.
An ancient historical cold case. It just shows how hard it is to pin down details from fragmented, maybe biased sources. Adds to the whole enigma.
Okay, so miracle achieved, Alps crossed, Hannibal's in Italy, ready to rumble. Which brings us to the battles, especially Cannae, 216 BC.
Yeah. Cannae, the tactical masterpiece, or maybe tactical horror show, depending on your perspective.
Our source called it the OG tactical horror show. And yeah, that fits. The setup is crazy. Hannibal's got maybe 50,000 troops, probably exhausted.
And the Romans, they field this massive force, around 80,000, confident, maybe overconfident after the shock of the invasion.
Definitely overconfident. They thought they'd just crush him with numbers on these flat plains near the Aufidus River. Famous last words.
Because Hannibal had this incredible, deadly plan, that crescent formation.
Right. Weak in the middle, strong on the flanks, deliberately inviting the Romans to push forward into the center.
Exactly as he planned. The Romans charge in, overcommit. Then Hannibal's flanks just swing inwards, like doors slamming shut.
A complete 360-degree encirclement. A kill box. How did he pull off something that complex?
It wasn't just the formation. It was planning, troop discipline, his veteran Libyans holding the center just long enough and knowing Roman tactics. His cavalry routed the Roman cavalry, then hit the legions from behind. Perfect timing. Masterful command.
The result, just catastrophic for Rome. Upwards of 50,000 dead in one day.
Unprecedented losses. The scale is almost impossible to grasp.
It sent shockwaves. Source says families literally banned the name Hannibal. Roman generals supposedly had this Cannae PTSD for decades, terrified of being trapped again.
It was probably the closest the Republic ever came to complete collapse. The psychological impact was immense, lasting.
So after this massive victory, you'd think, okay, march on Rome. Game over.
That's the logical next step, seems like. But he didn't.
And historians still debate why. His generals were supposedly begging him to go, but he famously said something like, I know how to win victories, not how to use them. What do you think that meant?
It's debated. Lack of siege equipment. Fear of stretching his lines too thin. Maybe he hoped Rome's allies would just give up after such a blow. Or maybe, yeah, he was a battlefield genius, but less sure about the grand strategy of conquest and occupation.
Hard to say for sure.
Hmm.
But what followed was this bizarre 15-year period. Hannibal just roaming Italy.
A constant menace.
Yeah,
Winning battles, disrupting everything, but never taking the capital. It was like long-term psychological warfare.
putting incredible strain on Rome's resources, their manpower, their morale.
Definitely. Rome couldn't beat him head-on, so they shifted tactics. Espionage, disinformation, hitting supply lines, getting Numidians in Africa to harass Carthage.
Smart. Desperate, but smart. And ultimately, they figured the only way to get him out of Italy was to hit him where he lived. Attack Carthage itself.
Enter Scipio Africanus. Brilliant Roman general, he takes the fight to Africa.
Forcing Hannibal to finally leave Italy and go back to defend Carthage,
Hmm.
which leads to the Battle of Zama in 22 BC.
The final showdown. And Hannibal's first and only major defeat. It basically ended the Second Punic War and cemented Roman dominance.
And even Hannibal's death is wrapped in theory. Supposedly suicide by poison in a ring, right? Around 183 BC to avoid Roman capture.
That's the traditional story. But lack of hard proof means theories pop up: fake death, life as an advisor elsewhere. The legend continues.
Classic. And the elephants. We keep coming back to them. How effective were they really? Unstoppable tanks or panic-prone liabilities?
Probably somewhere in between, devastating under the right conditions, with surprise on their side, but also vulnerable, unpredictable, especially if the enemy adapted.
Like creating lanes for them to run through harmlessly.
Exactly. Or using noisy weapons to spook them. They weren't a guaranteed win button.
But here's a twist. Even though he was Rome's nightmare, later Roman generals studied him. Cannae became required reading for them.
Yeah, some Romans called him the greatest general ever. Maybe partly to make their own victory seem even bigger. We beat the best.
Could be. But also they were pragmatic. They saw tactical genius and learned from it, even from their worst enemy.
Which speaks volumes about his impact. His legacy is huge. He's in that top tier Alexander, Caesar, Napoleon. Modern generals still acknowledge his influence.
And Hannibal at the gates, still a thing people say for impending doom. He pops up everywhere too. Video games like Total War.
That potential Ridley Scott movie, Denzel Washington as Hannibal. Intriguing idea.
Assassin's Creed, conspiracy theories. Even Rick and Morty gave him a nod. This story just keeps grabbing people.
It's got all the elements, doesn't it? Audacity, genius, tragedy, mystery.
Totally. Okay, before we wrap this bizarre journey, let's hit a few of those deep cuts our source found, like Carthaginian battle codes.
Oh yeah, based on obscure Phoenician dialects, apparently completely baffled Roman intelligence, built-in encryption.
Amazing. And his top cavalry guy, a Gallic warlord who used to fight for Rome.
Right. Shows Hannibal's charisma, his ability to unite diverse people against a common enemy, ancient Fast and Furious team-up vibe.
Huh. Then there's that really weird, unsettling rumor. Hannibal carrying a preserved human heart. For focus.
Yeah, zero proof for that one. Pure legend,
Yeah.
probably, but it adds to that dark, relentless image, doesn't it?
Definitely amps up the unhinged factor.
Yeah.
And his name, Hannibal Barca, meaning grace of Baal.
Baal, being a major, sometimes pretty fearsome Carthaginian god, connects him right back to his cultural roots, that religious context.
So putting it all together, Hannibal Barca, more than a general, force of nature maybe, driven by that oath, that vengeance, his strategies, his campaign, they changed warfare, left this huge mark.
He became a legend, feared but also grudgingly admired, even by Rome. He pushed them to their absolute limit.
And for you, our listener, you wanted figures who transcended their time. Hannibal, check. Unbelievable feats, shocking defeats, mysteries. His story is packed.
It gives us insights into strategy, conflict, psychology, and just the sheer power of one person's will, for good or ill.
So here's that provocative thought to leave you with. What if he'd won? Seriously. What if, after Cannae, he had taken Rome? How different would Western history look?
A Carthaginian superpower instead of a Roman one. Wow, the what-ifs are endless. It really makes you think about how contingent history is.
It really does. Well, we've only scratched the surface of Hannibal's incredible life, of course. If this bizarre journey got you hooked, check out our curated curiosity cabinet. We've put links to books, docs, online stuff.
Plenty more to explore if you want to keep digging.
Absolutely. And let us know what other unhinged lives from history you want us to tackle on future bizarre journeys of the Lifespan podcast.